All right. Would you ever lose intentionally for a big paycheck? People seem to think that Cowboy Cerrone would. This is Combat Sports Talk, episode 106. Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the double champ, George G-Money Stallworth, and the man with the keys to victory, John Keys. What's up, fellas?
It's good to be back again. Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah, George and I have been holding the fort, so, I'm glad to see that you're finally back. Everybody's got their Combat Sports Talk beanies on. For me, I got these Flying Eagles Fly. Woo! We beat those Cowboys. That's right. Gotta rep my Eagles. There it is. Fly Eagles Fly. But look, I got the shirt on.
Look, both of us sip our tea.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tough to be an Eagles fan with.
I'm not even a football fan, really.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time.
No, but it's tough to be an Eagles fan in Dallas, right? Like this is the big rivalry, but football is king in Texas, so we gotta.
I had to save a guy's life, okay, because he was about to get jumped by two Cowboy fans because he was straight from Philadelphia. He thought it'd be real cool to come here with his Eagles hat, Eagles pullover, with his Eagle sweats, and we went to a barbecue joint, and two guys sitting over there, they were kind of eyeing him, and they were like, "Hey, what's up, homie?" And the dude was gonna start talking. I was like, "Oh no, man, he's good. He's good." I had to throw up the nod, almost had to throw some gang signs and everything, but throw the star up and everything. But I told him he's good. He's just out of town, and he's like, he's from, we're in Dallas, right? And it's like, yeah, he's from Philadelphia. Just let him slide, please. But,
he must have been a little guy.
He was a little guy. The two guys that were talking to him were very big guys. Okay, and I was just like, oh, he's going to die today, and I didn't want that on my conscience.
Well, talking about somebody who's about ready to die, we got a big fight coming up next, and it's UFC 246, Cowboy Cerrone versus Conor McGregor. These are fireworks here, man. I'm excited about that.
Well, if there's ever been a banger, this is one. Okay, this is definitely going to be the banger.
All right. Well, you know what? This is
I'll tell you why this got a lot more interesting for me.
Okay.
The whole theory behind Cowboy supposedly throwing this fight.
What?
Have you guys heard this?
Yeah. So let's get into it. This is our headliner. All right, this is the headliner. This is the thing that everybody's talking about. George, you set it up perfectly. People are talking about Cowboy Cerrone wanting to throw this fight, UFC 246. This thing sold out immediately. Like, within seconds, this fight, when it became available to buy tickets, sold out. It's already guaranteed a $10 million gate. That's crazy.
And that means the $1,500 floor tickets went.
Yes, everything. So this is going to be a massive fight. Conor McGregor's coming back. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen. He's moving up to welterweight. That's 170 pounds. Cowboy Cerrone had just moved back for 155, but in order to get this fight, he's like, fine, I'll fight at 170. And now everybody's saying this is just a stepping stone to get to Jorge Masvidal. This is just a stepping stone to get to Kamaru Usman. Cowboy Cerrone is gonna throw this fight. George, what do you think? That says a lot. You just no. Yeah, I got you, man. John, what do you think?
All right, so it's like this. All right. The last fight the last loss that Cowboy took, he made a rookie mistake being a veteran. And that's when he blew his nose after it was broken. And then he wasn't really like upset that he did that. He was just like, well, I did that. And that to me, I don't know if that was a mark of maturity or a mark like, I don't want any more parts of this fight. Let me get my check and roll. Now before I say anything else, I am 100% a Cowboy Cerrone fan. From the moment I've met this dude looks like a guy that was a youth pastor that I met several years ago. He looks dead on him. Okay, could be a twin. So I've always been likened to Cowboy Cerrone. He has the skills, he has the chops, but he also has. In his younger days, he would have something that we would call lack of testicular fortitude. And don't come for me, Cerrone. Okay.
Wait. Hold on. You saying that Cowboy Cerrone?
There's been times he has the same thing. He had the same problem like Aaron Trigg. That if he didn't want to be in there, he wasn't going to be in. You could definitely tell he had his on days and off days. That's probably better.
Who's Aaron Trigg? Okay.
Aaron Trigg was a wrestler who is now a UFC referee, actually.
You mean Frank Trigg?
Frank Trigg, excuse me. Yes, Frank Trigg. Aaron Trigg, I think it's like my cousin. But anyway, Frank Trigg. Yes, so Frank Trigg, when like I said, if you beat him well enough, he doesn't want any parts of that. You could do that like within the first 30 seconds of the match. If you put it to him hard enough, he wants out. Cowboy Cerrone has had matches where he just wasn't feeling it.
Right.
Okay. And that's what I think where people are generating this conspiracy theory from, because there have been fights where on paper he beats the living crap out of people, but because he wasn't feeling it that night, he didn't. Well, and you can hit the X-Files music right now for me if you want. So.
Yeah, I get you, but so George, you talk about a lot about how fighters sometimes need to almost have a round in the gym, in the backstage before they even come out. That you say you like to say that they need to come out wet. Now, is this a case of Cowboy Cerrone not coming out wet and just coming out flat, or is he really just a slow starter and sometimes he's just not feeling up to fighting?
I think Cowboy definitely is a slow starter. It takes him a while to get warmed up, even if he is properly warming up in the back. Some guys are just like that. They need to be on their second wind before they really get to functioning the way we would expect them to perform at that level in the game, which is not necessarily the best game plan when you're fighting a guy like Conor, who will come out and start you real quickly. So that makes for a great matchup. If the fight runs long, we're going to see Cowboy start to turn up. But if Cowboy doesn't get warmed up properly, if Conor comes out and has a great first round, something like that, this fight could very easily go Conor's way real quickly.
Okay, so let's get to the main point now. Is there any juice behind the notion that Cowboy might take a dive for this big paycheck to get this so that Conor can either get the Khabib rematch or that Conor can get a crack at Jorge Masvidal? Here's the thinking here. One, Cowboy's not talking any trash. Like, he is fighting the king of trash talkers, and he's not talking any trash. He's like, I don't care what the dude did outside of the ring. I only care about what he did inside the ring, and what he's done inside the cage and what he's done from the sport has been amazing. He's honored to fight a guy like him, and he wants to be one heck of a battle that he's looking forward to. So Cowboy's talking zero trash. Cowboy is also saying, I'm going to stand and bang with Conor. Cowboy's got jiu-jitsu. Cowboy could take this fight to the ground. But he wants to stand and bang because that's what people want to see. He wants to play to Conor's strength. Like, doesn't that seem a little awkward? Doesn't that seem a little...
No.
Cowboy's fight style, for the most part, has been to stand and bang with folks. He's got great ground game, and when he needs to, he can rely on that. But if you go back and watch the majority of Cowboy's fights, he wants to stand and bang. He is a striker. That's his background.
Well, he has heard the
He even talks
conspiracy.
about it
Oh, yeah, ahead. Keep going.
in
Keep
terms
going.
of his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He says, in jiu-jitsu wise, I think he's never really leveled up because he doesn't train in the gi. He says he's probably purple belt level in jiu-jitsu or something like that. But I think he's probably only ranked up to a blue belt, if that. And in terms of jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, blue belt is a status. It's hard to attain. I don't have a blue belt, but I've been training jiu-jitsu 6 years. I don't train in the gi. Therefore, I never rank up. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
But if you roll with me, you definitely would think I'm at least blue belt level.
Okay. But
I just don't see much. I don't see much weight behind this talk about Cowboy being throwing this fight. I don't know where this is really coming from. I don't understand it. Cowboy's been in the game way too long. He's a veteran of this game. Not only that, there's win money and there's show money. You can't convince me that somebody's paying him more to lose a fight than to win this fight.
Yeah, there is, but I think you're leaving out some of the money because there's win money, there's show money. This is a pay-per-view, so there are points. There's also sponsorship dollars coming from Reebok. Like those are all dollars coming, and because this is a $10 million gate right off the bat, we haven't even worked in any of the pay-per-view dollars. We haven't done anything like that. We already know that Conor has, 3 of the top 4 or 4 of the top 5 pay-per-view numbers in the history of the UFC.
Yep.
So even losing, Cowboy stands to gain more money than he's made in any of the fights he's fought before. So it's a win-win situation for him. And I think that there are people out there, and I am not espousing to this notion. I am not a conspiracy theorist, and I've seen enough Cowboy Cerrone fights to know that he doesn't care about anything other than winning, and he will fight as much as he can to win as much as he can. That's just the person that he is. So I don't believe that this conspiracy is real either. But I can see why people might think that there's something going on because, look, you're standing to win more money than you ever made, even by losing. You're not talking this trash that you would normally talk. You're wanting to play to Conor's strengths and stand and bang. And the other fact is, of all the people that Conor could have fought to come back, it's Cowboy Cerrone. Why is Cowboy so special? Maybe because in the back where people are pulling strings, everybody wants to accuse Dana White of pulling the strings and making things happen and having cards, judges score cards certain ways so that fighters can win. Like all of those conspiracy theories. Now, if you give fuel to those, you get this type of notion that somehow, in order for Dana White to be able to justify a Khabib fight, which he already said, if Conor beats Cowboy Cerrone, then he's back in the picture for a rematch with Khabib. Or at 170 now, you've got the fight with Jorge Masvidal, which would be one of the biggest cards, I would say, in UFC history. Clearly the biggest card of the decade. But it would be to 2020, so,
Okay, so before we go any further, please, and once again, I understand where people are coming from with this. I do not agree with it either. And we also have to put in fact that people forgot that there's a bit of a beef. There was a bit of beef with Cowboy and the Notorious One back at the back in the Dallas press conference where Cowboy clearly stated that he would want to punch him in the mouth. All right. So, with that said, I think Cowboy is kind of playing let me keep it cool, let me keep it right, and then go in there and show him what I can do. Because he still has to remember, he's going up against a guy that has the one of the fastest knockouts against one of the most dangerous fighters at the time on the planet.
Very, very true, but that's at 145 pounds. They're fighting 25 pounds heavier. So I don't know if that's apples to apples comparison.
So what you're saying? Hold on. So what you're saying, Mr. Smith, is that you would take on Jose Aldo today?
No, because I don't like leg kicks. Okay. But at the same time,
Jose Aldo doesn't throw leg kicks anymore.
Yeah, he punches now.
I'm just saying, Jose Aldo's walking around at 135 pounds at like 5'6". he's not in my weight class.
Dude, never
Oh,
fight
so
a
what you're
guy.
saying is you would beat him.
I'm not saying any of that. I am not a fighter.
That's what
I am
just
a
heard roll
lover
off your tongue.
and a
He's not
talker.
even in my weight class.
But he is not in my weight class, and I would enjoy quite the reach on him. I think my arms may be longer than his legs. Just saying.
I would say this: never fight a dude that makes a lot of money that is sporting a facial scar with no aspirations to clean that up whatsoever. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Well, the rule of thumb that I was always taught was never fight a man uglier than you, which is because he's got nothing to lose, right? So I talk a lot of smack to you, John, but I'd never fight you.
What?
All right, that is our headliner, Cowboy Cerrone versus Conor McGregor. It's January 18th, 2020. We do not believe at Combat Sports Talk that Cowboy Cerrone has any intention of throwing this fight. We are looking forward to this fight, and we'll make our picks accordingly at that time. Now, there were lots of fights going on in the MMA world. There was actually 2 Bellator cards. We're only going to cover Bellator 236. And there was also UFC Fight Night 165, Zombie versus Edgar. That's the official decision coming at you right now. This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights that happened this weekend. There were 3 fights. We're going to cover 2 of them. The first thing that we're going to look at is Bellator 236, McFarland versus Jackson at the Neil S. Blaisdell Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. I think it's great that Bellator made it out to Hawaii. UFC said that they're probably not going to ever make it out to Hawaii. There were 6 fights on the card. Zach Zane defeated Nanoa Dung by unanimous decision. That was a lightweight fight. The bantamweight fight between Rafion Stotts and Chaden Liahola was a unanimous decision victory for Stotts. Juliana Velasquez defeated Bruna Ellen by unanimous decision. Jason Jackson defeated Kichi Kunimoto by unanimous decision. And in the co-main event, AJ McKee defeated Derek Campos by submission in round 3. So AJ McKee, man, that's a pretty significant name coming up against Derek Campos. Okay, maybe I'm the only one who thinks so. All right, and then in the main event,
all right. So let me be honest here.
Okay, as you take a drink.
Main event. Go ahead. Main event.
In the main event, Ilima Lay McFarland defeated Kay Jackson via unanimous decision. That was for the flyweight 125-pound title.
Impressive.
All right.
Now, I honestly have to say I didn't get to watch any of this Bellator card. I'm not even familiar with most of the names on this card. Not that I'm a casual fan, because by no means am I. But I'm just not as caught up on this card or have the knowledge that I should to discuss AJ McKee versus Derek Campos.
Okay. All right, well, then let's go on to UFC Fight Night 165, Zombie versus Edgar in the Sejak Arena in Busan, South Korea. There were 5 fights on the card. Yeah, what's up?
Now we're going from bad to worse.
What is that?
I can't pronounce half of the people that fought on this card.
Oh, yeah. I wish KC was here because I would usually outsource that to him.
Have him pronounce.
All right.
Here, I'll fill in his shoes. Let me try.
Okay, you got it.
We had Kyung Ho Kang defeated Lai Pingy Yong Won by split decision.
Oh, gosh.
Where's my 8?
We had Jung Young Park defeated Mark Andre Barriault via unanimous decision.
Mm-hmm.
We had Da Ung Jung defeated Mike Rodriguez via first round KO. You should watch the finish on this one, is what I'm being told. Charlie Jordan defeats Superboy, our Korean
Charles
Superboy.
Jourdain.
Charles, what did I say?
Charlie Jordan. It's Charlie Jordan.
Charlie Murphy.
Charlie Murphy
defeats Korean Superboy Doo-Ho Choi via second round TKO. Again, I'm being told to watch the finish on this one. I heard Korean Superboy broke his arm.
Yeah. So it broke his arm in the first round of the fight. The fight goes to the second round. But, the thing is that, like, we've watched fights where fighters have been injured and you can see clearly that they're favoring it or things like that. Jourdain dropped him with a straight left. I mean, you go back and watch this fight and it's just like pow, pow. And it's like, well, actually, I'm a southpaw. So, of course, but he dropped him with a straight left. There you go. Boom. And just caught him right in the chin. It wasn't something where it was, I remember, I think when Korean Zombie fought Jose Aldo, he got his arm broken. Like, he got kicked in the arm and it broke his arm. And you could see that he's holding his arm and he just started taking damage because he couldn't. I mean, he couldn't protect himself. I didn't really see that from Doo Ho Choi. But maybe the fact that he took such a clean punch was due to the fact that his arm was injured. If you go back and look at the X-rays, it's a pretty significant fracture. Volkan Ozdemir, you got that one?
Let's go with it. Volkan Ozdemir defeats Alexander Rakic. Rakic via split decision. I hear Rakic's going to be out for 6 months after that one, yeah?
Yeah.
He's suspended for 6 months due to injury, and say he wasn't too happy with the decision. I'm also understanding that, huh?
No, he was saying that who the real winner was. It was a split decision. So, like, nobody agreed who won. It was just there were two judges agreed that you didn't win. But if you look at his leg, like, we talk about leg kicks. Leg kicks are devastating. The leg kick was so effective for Volkan Ozdemir that Alexander Rakic was walking around with a subdural hematoma on his leg that looked like a second knee. Like, you got your knee, and then there's another big old lump right under your knee where that leg kick was landing. You come on, man. That was that. You probably didn't win that fight. Ozdemir did not look as bad.
Okay.
And then in the main event,
also kind of puts
go ahead.
Chan Sung Jung, also known as the Korean Zombie, defeats Frankie Edgar via first round TKO. Edgar suspended 6 months as a result of this fight. Looks like he's got an orbital fracture. It also means that his fight with
Corey.
Yeah, is off.
Yeah, Corey Sandhagen. So we were talking about this, George. We were talking about this at the live event. We were watching UFC 245. And so I was like, why is Frankie Edgar fighting this fight? It's a late fight replacement, so that doesn't favor him. Two, it's also one of those things where you have a fight the next month. Like, there is a chance that you taking this fight early could injure you, and then you don't get to fight in the fight that you were actually booked for. You're moving down. This is your first fight at 135, so you're trying to move into a new weight class, make a run at the title. And these are all arguments that Corey Sandhagen was making as well. And so he was like, you're trying to move into a new division, trying to make another run at a title because you're not going to get it at 145, and you're going to take a fight against someone as dangerous as the Korean Zombie, Chan Sung Jung? Yeah, he gets knocked out, broken orbital. Now he can't fight. Now he's probably going to be out for a while. And so it's like, what are you going to do? John, what do you think about this? Oh, okay. Let's get to John, and then we'll come back to you, George.
Well, that was just can't say when keeping it real goes wrong. More of not ice skating uphill. What were you thinking? Okay, this was not going to be a sparring match. This is not going to be a prep match for you. The Korean Zombie is named that way for a reason. Okay, you don't fight a guy whose nickname has zombie in it. He's not going down easy. You need Glass Joe. Glass Joe, people. That's the guy you want to fight a month before your actual fight. Not the smartest of decisions. I'm sure there's an after story to this somewhere that we're not seeing. The moment I see it, I'll let you guys know.
Well, I will be more than happy to let you guys know the after story to this, and the reason why you take a fight against the Korean Zombie in North Korea is because the UFC
South Korea.
is paying you. I'm sorry, South Korea, $1 million.
Got to put your pinky
to
by your
fight.
mouth. There you go.
1 million.
That's right. I got the cat here too, but she's asleep. So I would bring the cat and like $1 million.
So,
But,
so I kind of do understand why Frankie took this fight, and the UFC needed to fill his card so bad they were willing to pay someone, and Frankie was like, "Hey, I'll be your huckleberry."
There it is.
Oh man!
So the trolls came out for Frankie Edgar. Man, they were not nice on Twitter after he lost. But who came to his rescue? Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's like, hey, you just stay low and keep firing, my man. I don't think he had a Texas accent.
That is so disingenuous from him.
Yeah.
Wasn't he trying to pick a fight with Frankie a couple of weeks ago?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he threw Frankie Edgar's name out there for a fight. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Now, Korean Zombie, after the fight, called for a title shot against Volkanovski. Remember, in UFC 245 last week, Volkanovski won the title from Max Holloway. And so Korean Zombie, I think, has a legitimate call for a title shot. But he is suffering from a double vision problem. So he's going to have surgery to fix his double vision. And it's going to take about 3 months to heal. Volkanovski, of course, has a broken hand, and it's likely that he's going to end up having to do a rematch against Max Holloway before that happens. So the timing might actually be right for Korean Zombie. I think it looks bad for Frankie Edgar that he got beat by a guy who was seeing double.
Or is it just that good that that he thought he was hitting 4 people at once? Okay, he was just like everywhere, man. So I'm not mad at the Korean Zombie. He was making sure he hit everybody. Ref is lucky he didn't catch some of that. Goodness. That's all I have to say about that.
All right, well that is our official decision. Let's look at the headlines that are making waves in the UFC in Finding the Angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines that are making waves after a weekend of action. And so, our first one, we've been talking a lot about Conor McGregor and Cowboy Cerrone, but what about Conor and Jorge Masvidal? So
you don't want that.
Yeah, so Jorge Masvidal is saying that he is prioritizing Conor at 170 over the title shot against Kamaru Usman. What he said is that Conor's not always going to be around. Whoever has the belt will always be there. And so there will always be a 170-pound champion. He will be able to chase that whenever he's good and ready. But Conor's not always going to be there. So when he can get a shot at Conor, he's going to take it. And he said he is going to make Conor pay for his sins.
Ooh, coming from Street Jesus. Yeah, Street Jesus.
I like it. I don't know how competitive of a fight it's going to be, but I like the idea that Street Jesus had decided he's going to baptize Conor and wash away his sins.
That's right. But there are people who are upset about this. People feel like Jorge Masvidal, the BMF, should be fighting for the title. I personally think that he needs to fight for the title. He is the legitimate next shot for the title. The only other person that I think would rival that would be Leon Edwards, but he's not a household name like Jorge Masvidal is, and so Jorge gets the next shot. And in doing so, I mean that makes a big fight for Kamaru Usman. Chasing Conor means you're not going to get a fight with Jorge Masvidal until probably July, and at that point,
I personally like what Jorge's doing. He's setting a standard. He's setting a new standard. You don't have to be on a title track. He is paving a different path for himself, and as a result, he is making money off of it. He is doing something that other fighters should take note of. You don't have to be on a title track in order to be a household name, in order to be considered one of the greatest at all time, or to leave your mark, your legacy, your imprint on this sport. And kudos to him for doing it, man. Nobody saw this coming. He is a dark horse for MMA right now, and he came out of nowhere and just reinvented himself. And I love what he's doing.
And I think this goes back to the conversation that you and I had, Ryan, a couple of weeks ago about promoting. Okay, and Jorge has a great backstory to him. He is Kimbo Slice's legacy. Kimbo found him, trained him, had him in backyard brawling, okay, and then brought him to the UFC. Okay, that is seriously from the streets to the octagon story. If there's not a better, if there's a better one, please show it to me because you can't find it. I'm pretty sure you can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so but honestly, if this is how it's going, I would love to see Jorge and Leon really finish cooking that beef that they started. Okay, I really want to see that happen before and let those two figure out who's going to go after Kamaru, because Kamaru's really like, I don't care who's next, and that's the attitude of a champion should have. I don't care who's next, just bring them, I'll beat them, and then you just keep feeding me. Okay, that's how a champion should carry themselves.
All right, so let's go and talk a little bit about some of these backstories here. So you were talking about Jorge Masvidal fighting with Kimbo Slice. Of course, Kimbo Slice made his name on YouTube in these backyard brawls in Miami, right?
Yes.
So you can go out, search for Kimbo Slice on YouTube, and you see all these fights with this dude who's huge beard, you know, one of the big names in kind of that underground fight club, if you will. Jorge Masvidal had an awesome fight in that, and then began to make his way through the MMA world. Had a huge fight against Ben Askren recently, which really put him on this trajectory. And then kind of, actually he knocked out Darren Till, which put him on the trajectory. Got into it with a fighter named Leon Edwards, threw a little 3-piece and a soda. We talked about it on the show. And those two fighters are actually in the same weight class. They could actually fight each other. Like, why would you fight backstage when you can get paid, right? So,
Exactly.
So you've got these two fighters who are looking to fight for the title, but as George is saying, Jorge Masvidal is like, I don't really need to fight for the title. I need to get paid. I've been in this sport for 16 years. What's wrong with me trying to get paid first before going for the title? Because I don't know how many years I've got left. So if the bigger payday is fighting Conor McGregor, which we all agree that it is, then why wouldn't he go and start talking trash and start trying to get people interested in that fight versus one that's against Kamaru Usman, who will likely be the title holder for some time?
If he keeps fighting the way he's fighting, yes, he's going to be there for a long time, and possibly the only person that could, in my honest opinion, could probably put him on the ground will be the guy he took it from.
So I want to skip ahead a little bit on and talk about, since we're talking about Kamaru Usman and we're talking about 170. There is one person at 170 who's been talking a lot of trash, and I want to see if you guys feel like he is legitimately and justified in that, and that's Tyron Woodley. So Tyron Woodley won the 170-pound title by knocking out knocking out the guy, the striker guy that Kobe. Oh my God! There are people watching this going, "You idiot! Don't you know? It's Robbie Lawler." There it is. Got it. So Tyron Wood, look.
I really enjoy seeing you swimming like that. You like paddling.
First of all, I'm the one who came up with it before I had to go and search for it. But all I know is that you, George, and you, John, didn't have the answer either. Y'all were just watching me like.
No, I want to see what you were going to say. All right, that's what I'm the historian. Of course, I knew. Goodness.
Yeah. Look. Normally, you jumping in with all the answers. This time, you were like, yeah, because I don't think you remember either.
I was gonna let you see. I just want to see you squirm just a little. All right.
Robbie Lawler. So Tyron Woodley knocked out Robbie Lawler. It was a devastating knockout. And then Tyron Woodley fought a couple of fights. Damian Maia. Who else did he fight? Anyway, he gets beaten by Kamaru Usman, and he's been on the sidelines. He's always been people, Dana White has always been frustrated with him because Tyron Woodley doesn't fight as often as Dana White would want him to. Usually due to injury and things like that, but sometimes it's just contract disputes and can't make the money and the benefits work out. But now you got Tyron Woodley sitting on the side throwing shade on Colby Covington and Conor McGregor, Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman and all these other guys. It's like, why don't you just get into the ring and fight, Tyron? Why can't you? Why can't you just fight? Why are you talking smack? So what I have for you guys, what I want to know is, what do you guys think about Tyron Woodley talking all this smack about Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman's fight and all the other things that he's saying, that he's the greatest welterweight of all time? I'm going to be quiet now.
George, go ahead.
So I feel like Tyron's input is tempered by the way the UFC has handled him previously. The UFC has handled Tyron in such a way where he doesn't come across as, I don't know what the proper word for it would be, but he's not being taken or given the full credit he probably deserves for having been the champ he was and having done the things he's done. The UFC has done nothing to, I guess, repair his status in the organization or anything like that, and as a result, he's just not looked at seriously when he speaks, even though he's got these multiple platforms that he speaks on. He's on TMZ, he's got albums out, he's got his hands in so many different things. But Dana White and him have this tumultuous relationship where Dana kind of discredits him at various opportunities, and I think it's done damage to Tyron's reputation. So when we hear Tyron say, hey, I'm the number one, whatever, people think, he's just talking. He's just jaw jacking.
I mean, he's a great fighter, and I'm not going to take anything away from Tyron Woodley. He is a wonderful fighter, devastating knockout power. He can just change the game, in a heartbeat. But he hasn't been as active as he needs to be to say the things that he's saying. In my opinion, I need to see a fighter
there's
fighting.
Been some injuries. Dana White said, "Who needs a thumb?" Look at his resume while he was champ. I would submit that he has been pretty active, other than when he was injured.
And let's think about it for a second. All right, every other fighter that ever lost every other champion that fought as convincingly and beat people in such a fashion that Tyron Woodley have automatically got a rubber match. Tyron didn't get his rubber match. I mean, I understand why, and I think a lot of people excused it for the fact that, it's Colby Covington and somebody really needs to shut him up, but it's over with now, okay? I know that Colby Covington is going on to his, you could beat the apology out of me tour, because, Dana has hinted that he wants Tyron to fight him next, but I would say, why are you feeding a former champion, a guy, and a guy that lost to the champion, rather than giving him his rubber match like he should have gotten? So yeah, it does look like that. I'm not saying it's like Tito Ortiz, Dana White relationship, but it's not too far away from that.
I think Tyron does need a tune-up fight. Colby Covington probably isn't the best tune-up fight for him, but they both are coming off losses, so the fight does make sense. There's history there. It's definitely a money match. People are going to pay to see that fight. I'm sorry, I would pay to see Colby fight after that last fight he just did with Kamaru. So I understand that fight, and if I'm not mistaken, Tyron does want the fight, but he also wants his belt back, and so Colby's standing in the way.
So I want to address a couple of things that you said, John. One, that champion getting his automatic rematch. He defended 4 times. He defended against Stephen Thompson. It was a draw. Defended against Stephen Thompson
twice,
and he won. Then he defended against Damian Maia, and then had the kind of that debacle here with Darren Till, where it was like Colby was supposed to fight that fight, and Darren Till Colby didn't, and then Darren Till stepped in, and then Darren Till got finished in the first round. Kamaru Usman defeated Tyron Woodley in a convincing fashion. Like, it wasn't a close fight. It wasn't even close. And so it's hard to give a champion an automatic rematch when they lose a fight as badly as he lost it. And remember, then he's kind of going on the injury tip. So it's like, how do you not let Kamaru Usman defend the title? Remember, this fight was in March. Tyron's been off.
I'm sorry. JJ got her rematch with Thug Rose.
JJ got her title defense automatically with Thug Rose because JJ defended her title 8 times. She almost broke the record for women title defenses that's held by Ronda Rousey. So that's
Tyron
different.
Defended at least 4 times, actually 5 if you count Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because he fought him twice.
I am counting it. I did count it.
Okay.
So
and let's
2 Thompsons, a Damian Maia, and a Darren Till. That's 4.
And let's put it out there. They really wanted Thompson to win. They wanted Thompson to win. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. They tried their hardest to give Thompson that win. All right, and he still beat him twice. All right, Darren Till. I don't like. Hey, like I've said before, if you walk in that ring, you're ready to go. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it was 2 days, 2 hours. He still walked in that ring. He still beat him. So it's a defense.
No. It was the first one was a draw. The second one he won by majority decision.
So can you explain majority decision?
Majority decisions means 2 judges said he won, 1 judge called it a draw.
I guess.
So he won Damian Maia by decision. He won Darren Till by Darce choke.
Let's talk about some of those fights though. He fought Damian Maia, arguably the most prolific ground guy in the game.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No.
Defeated him by what?
Decision. Unanimous decision.
And people got upset because Tyron, he fought a smart fight, not the fight that Dana White and other people wanted. He didn't go out there, rock him, sock him, and do all those things. These are the points I'm making. Tyron is an intelligent guy. He might not be the most likable guy. Dana White might not like him. The UFC might not like him. Those things like that. But he isn't always getting a fair shake. And I'm not saying some of his wounds aren't self-inflicted, because they are. Mm-hmm. But I do think he is deserving of a title shot again.
Having done what? That's the thing. You have to fight.
Damian Maia, Robbie Lawler, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson twice. Who else did you say? And Darren Till. Darren Till went up. You know how big Darren Till is? Mm-hmm. Darren Till's fighting over in the other weight class now and still is a monster over those guys. Come on, man. How can you not say that?
But my point is you have to be active. You can't, how can you lose your last fight, not fight, and then get a title shot? I mean, in the UFC,
because he was the champ.
I know that it has happened. But there are people who have stayed active at 170 pounds, and you have someone like Colby Covington who now has had a more legitimate claim on that than Tyron Woodley did. I think now Tyron Woodley needs to fight Colby Covington. That is the next legitimate fight for him.
Here's my other point to this too. You're just saying that he wasn't active, but what about all the fights we didn't get to see because of whatever reasons? Because he was supposed to fight Kobe at least twice, and Kobe pulled out. Mm-hmm. There were other fights that got shut down, and then of course there were injuries.
There are all of these things are true, but you can't say
not just injuries. There were surgeries.
You can't say that. What about the fights that didn't happen? And then make a claim and use that as legitimate argument for Tyron Woodley coming in and getting a title shot. Tyron Woodley has to fight somebody.
He wasn't active, and what I'm saying to you is all of that wasn't his fault.
Because he was ready to go.
It's the reality of the sport. There are injuries, there are surgeries, and you get pushed back in line. Man, I'd never want to be in the position where I'm defending Colby Covington here. That is never where I want to be. But Colby Covington lost his title because he went and got some kind of nasal surgery or whatever. And that's how Darren Till got into it, because Colby went and had surgery. There are consequences for not fighting and for having surgeries. You can't say that Colby Covington should have lost his title and all that kind of stuff because he didn't fight Tyron Woodley because of whatever surgery he elected to take, and then say, well, Tyron Woodley needs a title shot because he's been injured and stuff like that. No, Tyron Woodley, you've been inactive. You need to have a fight. You have a fight. You win that fight. Then let's go. Get a tomato can. I don't care. Don't get Colby Covington, because we saw that Colby's a little bit better than we thought he was. But you know what I'm saying.
Oh, there's still an anger beating there coming. All right, from Tyron Woodley to him. There's an anger beating.
Good.
Okay.
I'd like to see it, but at the same time, there's a lot of 170s out there, and Tyron Woodley needs to get active to get his name back in this rotation, because you've got someone like Jorge Masvidal. You've got someone like Leon Edwards. You got someone like Conor McGregor, who's coming up to 170 looking for paydays. So he is going to get pushed aside for some of these bigger names and some of these more active fighters. Santiago Ponzinibbio, we haven't talked about him in forever. That guy is at 170. Like, you've got a lot of 170-pound guys that have a legitimate claim at getting a title shot, or at least fighting for a contendership. And Tyron Woodley can't just say, well, I defended 4 titles. I defended the title 4 times as my only claim for getting a title shot over these guys. I'm just saying, I would like to see Tyron Woodley fight a fight. Stop talking about how he's the greatest welterweight of all time, because we know that's not true.
I don't know. Four title defenses does equate to a rubber match to my book. I'm just like, that's how I feel about it.
Get him, John. Get him.
I'm just saying, 4 title defenses. I don't care. Heck, 1 title defense, and you still got a bigger claim than everybody else.
What are you talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. 1 title defense and you got a better claim than anybody else?
Because guess what? You were the champ at one time, and you lost. So therefore, you must have a rubber match, unless there was a knockout or there was a complete submission. Then I could say, okay, Ryan, you got to have a chance. But a decision, you know how I feel about decisions.
This was not a split decision. Tyron Woodley lost unanimous decision. It was like 4-1, 5-0. Like, it was not even close.
Like a decision.
It wasn't even close.
He left it to the judges. He left it to the judges. I'm sorry. If he had got knocked out, I'd be like, okay, who's next? If he had got submitted, I'd have said, okay, who's next? But he had 3 people on the outside of the fight who quite possibly have never jumped in the ring in their life sit there and say, well, you know what? I think he won.
So what you're saying is that there's no legitimate outcome to a fight except for a submission or a knockout. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I've said that several times on this podcast.
He should get the rematch.
I said that on this podcast several times.
All right.
That I'm a firm believer of knockout submissions, and you are dropped back into the next line. A decision is not good enough. A decision says you just did good enough. But even when Dana White sits there and says and repeats this mantra over and over again, do not leave it in the hands of the judges. That tells you everything right there. Well, you can't be trusted. The judges cannot be trusted to give us an honest decision. Okay? Not saying that they do, not saying that they don't. I'm just saying, knock them out, submit them, get them out the rankings. Okay?
I don't even know what to say to that.
I can't believe you left him speechless.
No,
it happens from time to time.
No, because it's like that is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Like, I've never heard anything more ridiculous. That, the reason why you don't want to leave it in the hands of the judges is because you do get sometimes crazy decisions in a close fight. But this is one where it wasn't a close fight. I mean, even a John Keyes could look at the fight, and see that that Tyron Woodley lost. and
I
it
don't
was
know
a
if that was a
convincing.
compliment or expletive.
It was
Okay,
it was such a convincing victory. You know that's what it is, and you can't knock out everybody. Not everybody is an easy knockout. You can't say that you didn't really beat me because you didn't knock me out.
No, you let the
Deontay
whole
Wilder said,
crowd.
"Hold my beer."
What?
Deontay Wilder said, "Hold my beer." On
Oh
that
my
statement.
gosh. Yeah.
And on top of that, you just let the crowd decide who won that fight. Oh, he did pretty good, so we'll let him win. No, knock him out or submit him.
All right.
All right.
We will revisit that craziness at another time. I want to talk a little bit about a few other things, and we'll do some quick hits to finish the show. Fighter health. This is one that I thought was pretty funny. We frequently reference the Joe Rogan podcast, and Faraz Zahavi, the coach of TriStar, where GSP, the greatest welterweight ever, not Tyron Woodley, because you forgot about GSP.
I forgot about this.
How you ranking? Wait, hold on. Time out. You ranking Tyron Woodley above GSP? Is that what you're doing?
I said nobody forgot it. No.
No, he don't know.
GSP is, hold on. Let me say it like this. Yeah, put it up there. Put it right up there. GSP is in a class by himself. There's GSP and then the rest of the welterweight division.
Tyron Woodley is currently saying that he is the greatest welterweight of all time. True or false? Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with that. Okay. Of all time, I totally disagree. All right.
Okay.
He's good. He ain't no GSP.
Because I can tell you, GSP has more title defenses than half the UFC champions that are running right now. Probably most of the UFC champions.
And guess what? When he got TKO'd, he got sent packing down the rankings. And how many fights did he have to fight to get right back to Matt Serra? I think it was like 3. No, it was 2. It was 2. Look it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
Look it up. Because I remember him begging for it. Please, Dana White, give it back to me. Let me fight again. I remember that. Okay.
Yep, it was 2.
That's why you have the historian on Best Sports Talk.
All right, you win one. Broken clock's right twice a day.
Oh.
All right.
That's okay.
So.
At least I didn't leave it to the hands of the judges. At least George didn't say, "Well, I think he won this one."
Okay. I got you. I got nothing to say here.
All right.
So fighter health. So Faraz Zahabi's on there talking to Joe Rogan, and one of the things that we learned about George St. Pierre after the fight with Johnny Hendricks was that George St. Pierre actually has a very real fear of aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah. Yes.
And so it hasn't gone away. So Faraz Zahabi, this is recent conversation with Joe Rogan. Faraz Zahabi was saying that he has shared a hotel room with George St. Pierre many times, and he puts a foam roller up against the door. And if Faraz Zahabi moves it, he's like, no, leave it there for the aliens. Because if the foam roller is moved, then he knows that the aliens were there.
Oh, boy.
And checking for the aliens.
So
there is a fine line between genius and insanity.
So do you think that this is CTE talking here?
All kidding aside.
All kidding aside, like I genuinely think that this may be CTE happening here.
It's a strong.
Why only this one particular issue do we see with him and think CTE necessarily? Like typically with CTE, there's decision-making issues all around, so it wouldn't just be one thing. We know there's one thing about George St. Pierre that he had. Is it possible he has CTE? Yes. Am I thinking that just because of his CTE he sees aliens? No. Well, CTE would have we'd be seeing several other factors involved. If it was CTE, you get what I'm saying?
So
wouldn't just
let's expand this a little bit, because it's not so much the aliens. The aliens is his explanation for things that are occurring that he
for the
can't
missing
explain,
time.
because he's missing time and he's missing memory. And missing time and missing memory are symptoms that one could attribute to CTE.
Right.
No, he's not acting out. He's not doing some of the things that, like a BJ Penn, when we talk about BJ Penn getting in all these fights at bars and things like that we attribute to potentially CTE. We have someone like Mark Hunt, who is really concerned about possibly having CTE and him having trouble sleeping and things like that. All of these things may manifest, maybe CTE manifest in different ways. And so, it's kind of heartbreaking if you have someone like George St. Pierre, who at the end of his career, not really counting the fight against Michael Bisping, but at the end of his career, he took more damage in those fights against Johnny Hendricks than he had taken in his entire career leading up to those. And so those may have been kind of that tipping point where he said, I need to get out of the sport because I'm taking too much damage. I don't feel good. These things are happening that I can't explain. And so maybe he made the right decision and got out while he still could.
I'd be interested in knowing how long I'd be interested in knowing how long the aliens have been abducting him, whether or not this was, pre-career or not, how long has this been going on?
He's been talking about it since,
I'm looking it up.
Shortly
2013.
Before. Yeah.
So
but when did the first abduction take place? I guess is what I want to know.
I don't know if he actually says when the first one happened. And this would be the Joe Rogan Experience number 351 where he talks about it. But that's 2013, so it's been happening for almost 7 years now. So very, very sad, very sad. I mean, everyone is kind of in the MMA community has made jokes about George St. Pierre. There's cartoons about George St. Pierre and aliens and all that kind of stuff. But it could be the sign of, some type of other illness or, injury that he may have sustained while fighting in the octagon, which is a real danger that every fighter takes. The other one, Holloway. Max, go ahead.
It could just be aliens, though.
Yeah.
And I think we should dub this as the conspiracy episode for real. We've talked about the Cowboys conspiracy. Now we're talking about aliens. What's next? Where's Eddie Bravo at when you need him?
So
where's my X-File theme?
Yeah. We may have to add that to the drops, to the sound drops. So you also have Max Holloway planning to sue for his health issues at UFC 226. So remember, UFC 226 was July 7th, 2018. He was all set to fight in that card, and then he was on an interview with Michael Bisping, and it just seemed like he was slurring his words. He really couldn't concentrate, and he had what they deemed it as concussion-like symptoms. Now he's saying that he believes that it was something that some substance that was tainted that he ingested, that he's gotten rid of his old management, and his new management are starting to look at finding a lawyer and suing for what happened. So I think that is a very interesting story as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last story. Kevin Lee, the Motown phenom. He recently backed Bernie Sanders and spoke at a Bernie Sanders rally. In his comments at the Bernie Sanders rally, he references Colby Covington, who is, as we all know, is a big Trump supporter. So, my question to you guys, do you think that Kevin Lee is taking a page out of the Colby Covington book and aligning himself with some type of political personality to start to elevate and raise his level of attention there within the sport?
No.
Why not?
he could have came off a little bit better with that delivery, based on the quote that I'm reading here. Um, yeah, he nah, I don't see Kevin Lee doing that. I'm not saying that's not in his personality, because the whole Trump thing was apparently not in Colby Covington's personality. Now he's got a physical defect for his troubles. But I think he was just speaking his mind. Freedom of speech is it's our American right to have freedom of speech to speak what you want, but at the same time, don't make it a whole persona where now we're gonna come out to Kurt Angle's music now every time we go fight. I mean,
yeah, but he wants Bernie Sanders to be at ringside like Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. were for Colby Covington. George, do you think that Kevin Lee is trying to parlay this political relationship into a higher profile in the UFC?
I would think that Bernie Sanders would be a little bit more genuine in bringing someone to speak at his rally, and that knowing, or at least his staff would have done their homework enough to know that, hey, there's this guy, Kobe Covington. He's got, this fake support going on with Trump, and Bernie wouldn't want to entangle himself. You get what I'm saying? I think Bernie is professional enough, or has enough intelligent people around here not to get involved in something so WWE showmanship like. You get what I'm saying?
All right. Well, what we'll have to do is just keep watching and seeing what happens. As for me, my personal thoughts are, I hope not. Like, right now, it's just him showing up at a rally. But of all the people why would you have Kevin Lee? Like, what makes him special to have him speak at a rally?
Where was the rally?
I think it was in Vegas. So,
okay,
but
it kind of makes Kevin's in Vegas now. So
Kevin lives in Vegas, but at the same time, it's like, I mean,
why Kevin?
Why
go ahead and say it?
Why Kevin? Like,
why not?
I mean, it's.
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe Kevin is the only person that they could get that's from, Las Vegas or whatever, that would have some type of political thing to say that would be relevant. Like, I'm just trying to understand the relevance of why would you bring Kevin Lee up as opposed to perhaps someone who's an activist who's doing something to bring the community together within the Las Vegas area. Not saying that Kevin Lee is not doing that. I just haven't heard that he is. I haven't heard of him doing any type of doing any social activist activity within the community. So I don't understand what value he has to Bernie Sanders, and that's why I'm asking: is this just some type of persona that he's starting to build, like Colby Covington? Because clearly, it's effective. Anyway. That's it. That's all we have for the show, guys. Follow us on social media. On Instagram, I am at Combat Sports Talk.
Geo Stallworth on Instagram.
Keys to Victory on Instagram.
All right. And you can follow us on our website at www.combatsportstalk.com. We are on every major podcasting platforms, YouTube. You can find us everywhere. Want to send a shout out to MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting, MMA Mania, and Bloody Elbow, and all the other sites that are producing wonderful mixed martial arts content that we use on our show. All that's left to do is to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year, guys.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. Be with your family, love them. Please don't knock them out. Please don't choke them out. There's bail money involved.
All right. Well, we will not be here on the Monday following Christmas, but we will be back on January 6th, ready for a new year of mixed martial arts action, a new decade of mixed martial arts action. So, on the behalf of George G. Money Stallworth and John the Keys to Victory Keys, this is Ryan Smith reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. We'll catch you next time.